what is the reason for motion? You remember, like from the Aristotelian times, when people thought that the default position is of state of rest, from to Galileo, who told that the default position can be even a state of motion, right? But then, from then, if you see, all the animals in this world know that you have to apply a force to move something, or if something which is moving, you have to apply a force to stop it or to increase or decrease its speed. This everyone knows, right? You see some ants in your house. If there is a very small stuff, a food item is to be picked up, probably one ant might come. What will happen if the food item to be picked up is of slightly bigger size? What will an ant do in your house? What do you see?
It communicates with the other ants, and it brings, and all of them come together.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because it knows that you need to apply more force, right? Probably not exactly the word called force they might use. The ants might be using some other communication method, but the ant also knows that you need to apply more force when the mass is more, right? When the mass of the food item to be lifted, it is more, you need more force. This everyone knows. Everyone in this world knows about this. But then, what is it that Newton contributed to it? You tell about that force is Newton, the unit itself is Newton. So what do we think Newton's contribution into this? This is something known from time immemorial. Where from he came into picture? Any idea?
The three laws of motion.
Come again, Ananya?
Newton's three laws of motion.
Sorry, can you repeat? Ananya, can you repeat? I didn't hear it properly.
Sir, I think she said Newton and the three laws of physics.
Three laws of physics, yeah, that is right. You are right. And as we learned, the first law is mostly more or less put together by based on Galilean thoughts. But what is it in that law that he did? What we were not knowing till that point?
The gravitational force.
The gravitational force, yes, of course, the equation for gravitational force.
Right. The pressure which attracts us towards Earth.
Yeah, actually speaking, people knew about gravity and levity from time immemorial. But what did he do is to put together an equation so that you can calculate the exact amount of gravitational force. Same in the case of motion also. People knew if you have more mass, you need more people to support it, which means you have to apply more force. But how much force? How do you build a house now? That's why I asked other day Elisa to list down the steps of building a house. People knew that if you have to build a house where 1,000 people have to stand, and then if you have to build another house where 10,000 people have to stand, you need to have more strength. This is something known for time immemorial. That is why people use heavy support for larger structures. But then how much force? Otherwise, you will do trial and error. How much exact force you have to apply to move something with X speed? That is why you are able to make a car or a lorry or a rocket or a missile. You can't do it by trial and error. Okay, let me fire a missile. Let us see where it falls. Okay, it doesn't fall in the exit block. Okay, fire the next one. It doesn't happen like that, right? So you have to know exactly how much force to be put so that you attain
Sir,
X
but
speed.
without data, we cannot do it in an instance. No.
Come again?
Without data about how many fuel is needed, how many thrust is needed for a rocket to escape the Earth's atmosphere, you should need data of your own, data to know in particular to that kind of rocket.
That is right. Even if you have data, if you don't know the actual equation, actual empirical formula, how it works, what will you do with that? Let us assume you collect the data, basically about atmosphere, the distance and all those things. But if you don't know what kind of an engine you need for a rocket, so that you need to reach so much of a space, so much of a distance in space, if you don't know that specific equation, you can't use it, right? So that is where Newton comes into picture, okay, which is what we will spend some time today. So this is where we left in the last class. Do you recall? So there were some beautiful answers given by Avinash. He has submitted his assignment. Remember, I mean, Avinash is there? Avinash, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you want to tell what was your inference? Why somebody is withdrawing the hand in the direction of the ball when you take a cricket catch?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The Newton proposed three laws, out of which the second law was states that the rate of change in momentum. The rate of change in momentum means the change, the momentum with the time. The change in momentum with respect to time. That is known as rate of change of momentum. The rate of change of momentum is proportional to the force applied onto an object. So if we if we when a ball, when a fielder catches the ball and doesn't pull his hand backwards, the time period will be much lesser than will be very short. So the rate of change of momentum will increase. As it is proportional to the force, the more force will be applied to the fielder's hand, and he will get hurt. So when he pulls his hand backwards, the time increases. So the rate of momentum decreases, and the force also decreases, and he is able to catch the ball easily.
Okay, fine. We will slightly get into one more step down into that. Now, do you remember that we try to tell that there are two things which becomes important to decide what is the impact of a motion, right? Or that we told that if you have a cycle which moves, let's say at 20 kilometer per hour, and then a lorry which also comes at 20 kilometer per hour, but if the lorry hits you and cycle hits you, you will get more damaged by the lorry because its mass is more, right? And also we told in the last session that in the same cycle, um, if it is coming at 50 kilometer per hour and another cycle coming at 10 kilometer per hour, the 50 kilometer per hour cycle will hurt you more if it hits you, because the speed is also matter, right? So then that is like we got into this idea that there are two things which becomes important to decide in case you are stopping something or trying to speed up something. In case you are pushing a truck or a lorry or a cycle or something, there are two things which are important. One is the mass of what you are trying to increase or decrease the speed, and second, the speed of it, right? So what is that combined effect we told? The combined effect of these two things, what do we call that? The mass and speed.
Momentum.
So that is what we call as momentum or mass in motion. People tell, somebody wrote that, mass in motion. Yeah? So that is what we call as momentum. So the English word called momentum. So we use this momentum in day-to-day life, right? It was things picked up momentum. Have you heard? Have you used this English word in day-to-day life? Have you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that is a normal word which people use by telling things are catching up momentum, which means, you know, it is you are seeing better, more activities kind of stuff, right? Okay, so now this momentum is the person which is critical in this how much force you have to apply to decide that is also something which people had an idea, right? Now let us see what happens in these two cases. See, let us assume this guy Kirsten, he withdraws the hand like this. So let us try to look at two cases. One case where somebody just takes the catch like this. Ball comes, just takes the catch like this. A slight movement only back. And another one withdraws like this. What happens in the second case? You take more time to bring the ball to rest. Is it not? Isn't that the difference between first and second? You take more time to bring that to rest, right? So what happens to the momentum when the ball, you catch a ball which is coming at some speed? When you catch that, what happens to the momentum? It decreases or increases? A cycle or a car comes, you stop that. What happens to its momentum?
So it decreases.
Why?
Is it because it takes lesser time to come to a position at rest?
Yeah, but you see, like Rishikesh, what he has said, see, momentum is of two things, mass and speed. Mass of an object normally doesn't change, right? See, mass of car or a ball, cricket ball or a football, whatever you are dealing with normally doesn't change. So speed reduces, means momentum will reduce. Speed increases, momentum will increase. That is why the same car, which is at 10 kilometer per hour, is less dangerous compared to a car which is running at 100 kilometer per hour. That's why people give driving instruction that you don't speed up. Because if your car is at 100 kilometer per hour, 150 kilometer per hour, same car, same mass, momentum is more, right? So if you have to stop that, when you stop that car, what happens is momentum becomes zero because speed becomes zero. Momentum is mass into speed or velocity, right? So if you have to stop a car which is coming at some very high speed, what happens is you are bringing the momentum to zero. Okay, what Newton brought, what is his contribution is, he gave a definition for force. He told force is like you have to apply a force to stop the car. Everyone knows that. Or you have to apply a force to increase the speed of a car. Let us assume a car is standstill, you are pushing it to increase the speed, you have to apply a force. But what is a force? What is his definition? So his definition is that how much is its change in momentum in 1 second? That is force. What is the change in momentum in 1 second? Do you get a clue that if you tell that something, what is the change in something in 1 second? Have you heard about this before in any other parameter? Is this familiar to you?
Rate of change.
Rate, that is what we call rate. We call rate parameter. Any other parameters you have learned like this? Rate in 1 second, how much? Have you learned any other?
Acceleration.
Yeah, Sunanda?
Acceleration.
Acceleration. Yes, acceleration is per second. What is change in speed? Anything else? Anything else? Per second, you tell us a parameter.
Velocity.
Rishikesh?
Velocity.
Velocity. Velocity is distance covered in 1 second, right? Or 1 minute or 1 hour, depending on what is the unit. Anything else?
Sir, displacement.
Displacement is not Ayati. Displacement is the distance covered. It is nothing to do with 1 second. Displacement happened in 1 second is velocity. Yeah, Ananya?
Speed.
Speed, yeah, we talked about speed. See, all rates, flow rate, any rate when you tell, normally it is something which is happening in a unit time. Yeah, any rate, whatever you normally tell. Yeah, beautiful. See, current. Current, what is in 1 second? In 1 second, what?
Electrons.
Yeah, charge.
Flow of
Yeah,
charge.
yeah, when, yeah, the charge in 1 second, right? The charge in 1 second is current. Beautiful. See, these are the things which we call as rate quantity. rate quantity. So Isaac Newton's contribution here is he defined force as something which in 1 second, what is the change in momentum? Actually, it is beautiful. You see, that is what we call as abstraction. People use that word so much in art also. This is what we call as abstraction. You have a huge phenomena in the universe. Universe is running, motion is an important part of it. He brings that motion to a crux by telling this force is the change in momentum in 1 second. You think about this. You are driving a car which is going at 150 kilometers per hour. The brake is lost. What do you do? Don't tell me I will sit and cry, oh, my brake is gone, what is going on? Not that. I'm asking practically. What will you do if you are the brake? Yes.
Sir, you'll travel more distance for it to come to a stop.
How it will come to stop after traveling more distance because fuel gets over.
No,
Yeah,
it'll slow down after
brake.
long distance.
Okay. After you are telling the naturally, it will slow down, right?
Sir, we'll die.
Okay. Yeah. Ayati will write off to her fate that nothing can be done. Anyone?
So we can call someone for help and then he'll bring a big
Big,
car
big.
or a truck which pulls the car back. I
But
don't know.
the car is going at 150 kilometers per hour, na Ayati. Truck cannot come and tell that wait for some second, stop for some time, let me put the hook and now you go at 150 kilometers. The crane cannot tell like that, right? It is going. It is like that Jim Carrey movie, you know, it's just going.
Control the car until it stops.
Okay.
Or get out
Let
the
me
door
ask,
and jump out of.
okay, let me ask you another question. Normally people when they lose brake, what they do is they will stop but hit at some point and stop. That's what drivers do because you can't take this much risk by telling let me continue to ride till it stops because some people come and jump. So if you were to hit at some point and stop, which would be an ideal location, ideal object where you can hit the car and stop?
What?
3,
Alan, what did Alan say?
What?
Wall. Okay.
Water.
3.
Sea, water. Okay. Why sea? Why water?
It's not a hard object, right? We could. I just think it's not a hard object. When we go there, it will slow down. The car will stop there.
Yeah, but what is the difference between the wall and the water? It's a brilliant
The loose
point.
material. No, we will not get hurt.
Yeah, it's not. It's it's not just hard. What matters?
Solid, wall is solid and
That is
water is liquid.
exactly what we learned just now. What if you get into a sand?
It slows down the car.
Yeah, what happens if the car is coming at some speed, the momentum that it has is the mass of the car into its speed, right? Now when it hits, the momentum comes to zero. But the force, what gets applied on this car or maybe the object where you hit in both ways is the change in momentum in 1 second. So your intention or interest is to reduce the force, right? To reduce the force. If the force is reduced, and that means the change in momentum, if it doesn't happen all in a sudden, then the force on the car will be reduced. So in the case of a wall or a tree, what will happen is immediately the car stops and the change in momentum happens in a split second. It is just like taking this catch. You take the catch like this in a split second, speed comes to zero. But when you pull the hand, what happens is speed comes to zero, but you take more time to do that. So in 1 second, what is the change in momentum is less. So if a car which is coming at 150 km per hour, if it enters a pond of water or a sand dune, it might take 8, 9, 10 seconds to stop. So the change in momentum happens in 10 seconds. So in 1 second, what is the change? Let us assume the car's weight is 1000 kg. And if it was coming at 150 km per hour, it is 150 into 1000. That is the momentum. And that becomes zero. So if it takes 10 seconds, then in 1 second, the change in momentum is this divided by 10. But if you hit a tree in a split second, less than 1 second, it becomes zero. So the force for that moment is huge. It is just like you think of it, is you think of a tree falling on you. Okay? A tree falling on you. So instead of tree coming, product falling on you, if it falls in slow motion, same tree, same mass, if it falls slowly, right, the impact will be lesser. Of course, you'll get hit, right? You can run, that's a different point. So this is what is the crux of what we call as force. See, now if you get into this specific case of the cricket ball, okay, take the ball. First case, somebody takes a hard catch. Somebody takes a hard catch. Assume the ball is having a 1 kg weight, which is very high. Normally it won't have that much weight. And just for ease of calculation I'm doing, assume the ball is coming at 10 meter per second speed, 10 meter per second. And you are just catching it. Hard catch, don't withdraw. Okay, which means assume it takes only 0.5 seconds. Okay, so now let us try to calculate the momentum. Momentum in both cases. In the starting momentum, before you apply the force, before you the catch, the ball is just reaching your hand. What is its momentum? Momentum, as we learned, is mass into velocity. So what is the initial momentum? Here, initial momentum means before you take the catch. What is its initial momentum?
10 kg.
Do all of you get it? What?
Yes, sir.
It is very simple, right? There is no rocket science in this. Momentum is this 1 into 10, right? If it is 2 kg, what would be its momentum?
20.
It will be 20, right? So it is just this into this, right? So initial momentum is 10. What is final momentum? You took the catch. Final momentum means you took the catch. Once you take the catch, what will be the ball's momentum?
0.
Because the speed has become 0. You took the catch. You made the ball dead. Is it not? Right? Do you all get this? Do you all get this? Anyone has a doubt? This is important. Right? Okay. So now the change in momentum is 10 minus 0 or 10. Right? But then what is force? As defined by Newton, is force is the change in momentum happening in 1 second. Right? Or what we call as rate of change of momentum. That word called rate is per second or per minute or per hour, depending on whatever is unit. So that rate is the rate at which it is happening. So the change of momentum, that is from 10 to 0, is happening. All of us know that. But what is its rate? In 1 second, how much it is happening? So that is, how do you calculate any rate? You calculate what is the change in momentum, that is 10 minus 0, divided by the time taken for it. Then you get to know in 1 second how much is the change. Do you understand? Do you all get this? Right? But no, what whenever you tell, let us assume a car is moving from a point A to point B. Let us assume that point A and point B are 100 kilometer apart. 100 kilometer apart. If the car takes 2 hours, how do you calculate rate of what we call as the speed is rate of distance covered? How do you calculate rate of distance covered? You will calculate 0 to 100, that is 100 minus 0, 100 kilometers the distance traveled in 2 hours. So in 1 hour, how much? 100 by 2. So you get it as 50 kilometer per hour. Right? If a car travels in 50 kilometer per hour, you cover 100 kilometer in 2 hours. So when you say the speed is 50 kilometer per hour, what does it mean? It means in 1 hour, the car travels 50 kilometers. 2 hours, 100. 5 hours, 250. Right? So that is what we call as a rate quantity. So here the rate, in the case of speed, the rate was of change in distance. But here the rate is of change in momentum. Right? So force as defined by Newton, which is one of his biggest contribution, is the rate of change of momentum, which means change in momentum in 1 second. So here in this case, this is 10 by 0.5, right? It is straightforward calculation. 10 minus 0, that is change in momentum. Time taken is 0.5 seconds. So here you take 20. So what is this 20? You see, unit momentum is mass into velocity. Unit of mass is kilogram. Unit of velocity is meter per second. All of you know this. So this is kilogram meter per second. Right? Unit of momentum is kilogram meter per second because mass is kilogram. Speed is meter per second. Right? Now when it comes to force, there is a time, one more time comes in denominator, divided by time. So kilogram meter per second by time. So this S will become S square. So this unit, as an honor for Isaac Newton, who had defined this, we call this kilogram meter per second square also as Newton. The symbol N. So unit of force, we call this as Newton also. Newton is this. Do you get this?
Yes, sir.
Anyone has a doubt? Anyone has a doubt? Okay. Now let us take the second case. Let us assume the second case, you are withdrawing the hand like this, which means the ball speed comes to 0 or rest with more time than before. Let us assume it is 2 seconds. The difference between a catch taken like this with firm hand and hand like this. Very similar to the car going and hitting a wall or a tree, and the car going to a pond like you suggested, or a sand dune, which may take 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Let us assume it takes 2 seconds. You see, the difference is not huge. 0.5 second and 2 seconds. 2 seconds is 1, 2, like this, like a normal catch. Similarly, initial momentum 1 into 10. Final momentum, say again same. The only difference here is the time taken. Right? So when you calculate the rate, here instead of 0.5, this will become 10 by 2 and 5 Newton. You look at it. Just because you took the catch with the delay, like say 2 seconds, the force you have to apply in your hand becomes 1/4. It was 20 kilogram meter per second square, 20 Newton before, now it is 5 Newton. That is why when you take a catch with a firm hand, your hand will become red. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
So this is what you apply in everyday life. The same case in car. Let us assume 1000 kilogram is the mass of the car and 150 kilometer per hour it was going, and then it is 1000 into 150. You see, if the car goes and hits a truck or a head-on collision, you know, in that second, 0.1 second, speed becomes 0. So the change in momentum happens in 0.1 second. Think about the force. 1000 into 150 divided by 0.1. Assume you are hitting a sand dune. or water, it may take 5 seconds or 6 seconds. Even if you can increase that hit time by 1 second, you know what they use in car manufacturers use to increase this time?
A
Airbag.
dash to the front of the car is longer.
Wow, who told that? Who told that?
So
Shivananda? Yeah, beautiful. Okay, that is a beautiful point. You see, you will see expensive cars are normally like safe cars which are known for safety, like Volvo cars and all those things. You see, their frontage will be long. So what happens is uh, the importance you give to human being first, right? So by the time the hit comes to you, let us assume a head-on collision to the driver who is sitting. See, if you increase the frontage of the car, it takes that much time to reach here. So impact can be reduced. Something else someone told.
Airbags.
Yeah, airbags. You see, airbags.
Shock absorbers.
Yeah, shock absorber is a different thing. Shock absorber is actually for
Impact absorber.
yeah, impact in case of jerks and all those things. So what happens is when you have a rough road, rough patch kind of stuff, the firm hit to avoid that you use shock absorber. But the what Avinash told, the safety balloons, whatever you have, what it does is, without that, if you have an accident, your head will go and hit on the steering or wherever is the rough body. With this, it will happen in slow motion, right? Can you think of any other examples from real life where this increasing this time helping you?
Height. In high jump, sand, when we fall on sand.
Exactly. See, forget about high jump. When you fall from a building, why do you die?
Impact.
Yeah. How can you reduce the impact?
By
The bed
reducing the
By reducing the
uh, speed,
yeah,
velocity of
yeah,
person
that you
falling.
can't have control, right? You don't have any control of the velocity of the person falling. You jump from a top of a building. Do you have a control on what speed you follow?
When we make the terrain much more the impact resistant,
You
or
don't have much of a option there. The only option for you is to increase the speed. Sorry, increase the time uh, to reduce the speed. See, anyway, when you fall from a building or somewhere, you don't have much of a control because it's the gravitational force which is under play. But then the time taken for the speed to become zero, you have a control. So if you fall from a 10-story building also, if you have a net, you're seen in Ritish, you're seen in high-story buildings in Muscat and all, you will have a net some places. Have you seen?
Mm. So in the top of buildings in the terrace area.
A terrace and down in the porticos, there are some places where like they will put so that if somebody falls, you fall on the net.
Ah, yes, sir. Yeah. I had it in my school in India.
Yeah, see, if it is a 10-story building, probably say in the first floor or so, they will have a net. Actually, if you fall on the floor, you die because the speed comes to zero quickly. In the net, what happens is you bounces. Yeah, you bounce, you bounce actually when you fall here, right? So what happens is in the case of a hard surface, whichever you have like a building or something or a normal floor, it just comes and hits. So if you have a cushion like this, a heavy cushion, actually if you fall from a building also it doesn't have, it doesn't cause fatality. You try out Newton's law of motion? Not on my name, okay? Right?
Sir,
Yeah.
also the mirrors which are fixed the cars, it is written that objects in this mirror appear to be closer than they actually are.
Yeah,
So is this
that
an
is a
example?
that is not, that's a different case. That is mostly to do with the curvature of the lens. It is optics under play, I think. So
Okay.
it is optics, it is because that mirror is a small mirror, you want to get a larger view, you so try to keep the lens of that in such a way that you get a larger view of it, but in the process the distance which you will feel is like it is much farther, but which is not the case, so you be careful is the message which comes. This is not really this one. You see a simple thing, when you
Yes,
get
sir.
into some buildings, you will see if there are rough edge in the buildings, they will keep a rubber cushion. Have you seen? Especially in parking spaces, some places when you move, if the roof is not that tall, if there's a chance of your head hitting there, they will keep a rubber cushion there. Have you seen that?
No,
No. Okay, in many places do be there where there's a chance of hitting. So that no, it increases the time. That is the point. Okay? Do you get
Yeah.
this? Yeah. So, yeah. So this
So,
is
so in cricket and all, they wear that knee pad. So is it for this reason only?
knee pad, yes, and there is another purpose also. Okay, so one is actually when the ball comes and hits on the knee pad, yes, it is the same purpose. When the ball comes and hits knee pad, but the football and all, when they play or for some other place, like when you fall, when you fall something, probably when there are sharp edges or something, you want to avoid. But the ball when comes and hits you, it is the same purpose. There is one more thing, you don't want that hit to come to your body. So if you have a strong pad, it won't touch your body, right? It's like a helmet, right? So helmet may get damaged in an accident, but you don't bother, it's just a few money, but your head is a different thing. So you are replacing another person with your leg to handle the situation. But well, even if it touches your leg, of course, this impact. Yeah,
Okay, sir.
right. So we move on. So this is like what we told now. If you try to tightrope walking, what did you mean, Elisa?
So in some circuses and all, like you said, when we fall from, like in some buildings there are nets and all. Like during tightrope walking also, sometimes you put nets
Yeah, you put
down.
net. Yeah. Whenever you put net. See what will happen when you fall in the net? It doesn't bounce like this. See, the net will fall down. You see, net will fall like a cushion. It will fall down and so that time gets increased. Right? You're right. All of you are right. Super. So now, if you try to put this into like an equation, okay, if you try to put it to an equation, very simple stuff, just listen. So don't think like these equations are coming very complicated point. The Newton's equations is very simple. So some simple equations we'll try to handle the derivations here so that you get to understand where from it is coming. Okay, so probably in the school you may not get into the derivation part of it, but these are very simple things. So now let us just take by telling like a cricket ball or some other ball. Let us assume when it is coming, it is having some speed u, some mass m. Previously, in our case, we took it as 1 kg and 10 meter per second. Now assume somebody is applying a force. It can be in either direction. In our previous case, we are trying to stop the ball. What if you don't stop the ball like a paddle shot, a batsman play in the same direction of the ball? You hit. What will happen to the speed? The ball is coming, you hit in the same direction. See, like to the wicket keeper, the paddle shot. See, you can play two different kinds of shot. One shot is you play to the mid on or mid off, which is against the direction of the ball. Another one, nowadays you see in the paddle shot, you will put the with the bat like this, so that in the same direction of the ball they play. What is the brilliance of that shot? What will happen when you hit like that?
the speed will increase, the ball will get to the
Yeah,
boundary.
the ball speed will increase, and more importantly, you know what? The change in momentum you need is very less. Is it not? See, in the case, you have to understand, if you hit to the mid-on or a mid-off, actually the change in momentum is huge because the ball is coming in this direction. So ball's mass is 1 kg and 10 meter per second, right? Now, if you hit it in the opposite direction, 10 meter per second, then you are able to hit, the change in momentum is 1 into 10 and 1 into 10 in the opposite. It is double because you have to hit it in the opposite direction. Now, if you have to hit a paddle shot, you have to just get a nick in the bat. You don't need much force. Even if you are able to manage the same 10 meter per second, it will go to boundary. Those who are know cricket, you will see nowadays many players a bit cheeky shots, like in classic cricket. Yeah, in classic cricket, our Gavaskar would have never appreciated that, or Rahul Dravid Mancharekar will tell that this is not. But nowadays, the classic people are on the sideline. Those who score runs are getting momentum. Okay, so they will, they'll just put and paddle it. You need to just get a nick of the bat because the change in momentum you needed is very less. The same direction, but to hit the ball in the opposite direction, you need much more force. Do you get that? Yeah. So depending on which direction you are applying, either the ball speed will increase or decrease. Okay. But that is what we learn as the today's motion. That the impact of force is change in speed. Speed will either decrease or increase. Let us assume the speed increases or decreases and the new speed is v. Some value, this u and v can be a and b, okay? Don't think there are too much meanings to this. Some number, some name, some alphabet we want to use. So we are using standard, everyone uses u and v. If you want to use a and b, use a and b. You want to use 1 and 2, use 1 and 2. You want to call Elisa and Mega, you call Elisa and Mega. You tell whatever names. So these do not have much of importance. I remember one of the students in one of the class, end of it, she told, sir, I have one doubt. This is in my mind for so many days. I want to ask you. I don't know whether it is foolish. I told, you ask, no problem. I told, sir, don't laugh. Do not laugh it. He told, sir, what is this theta? And later I saw in a movie. I told, what is this theta? What is this x and y? So I told him, it is just letters. But he told, no, but when I wrote once this x and y ulta, instead of vertical, I wrote x and the horizontal, I wrote y. Then I got scolding. I told, it's very unfair. You can call it A and B, or you can call it with any name. You can call it with Tom and Dick. No problem. Instead of theta, you can. So he asked, instead of theta, can we tell sine A? I told you call sine Kuttapan from tomorrow. No problem. So you're so relieved. Sometimes I feel, we get this wrong notion that these are something which is cast in stone. So this U, V, M, and are not cast in stone. It is just that everywhere you want to call the same name, right? So you call COVID as one name, right? COVID is the name you put. So what if Shivananda calls COVID as COVID and Elisa tells COVID as flu and Mega calls COVID as chickenpox? Then you have a problem, right? Different people uses different name, you have a problem. So normally you try to standardize. Otherwise, there is nothing more than that to that. Okay. So now you think some speed, starting speed u, somebody applies some force, because of that speed changes. So you have an acceleration or a deceleration. Your new speed becomes v. Let us assume that. Okay, fine. Now, what is the initial momentum?
mu.
It is m into u. Yeah, it is nothing. There is no rocket science, right? It is mass into speed. In the previous case, 10 into 1. Right? M into u. What is the final momentum?
mu by time.
M into v.
Final momentum is m into v, right? Right? Starting momentum was m into u. Final momentum, what is the difference from previous case? What is the difference from the cricket case?
Velocity changes from U to V.
Yeah, in previous case, what it changed to? In the cricket ball case?
V to U.
In the cricket ball case, when we take a catch, what happens to the final momentum or final speed?
0.
It
It becomes
changes to zero.
0. Yeah. So here in the previous case, V was 0. Here it could be 0 or it could be more. If you are hitting the paddle shot, means it will increase to be more than U, right? If you are taking a catch, V will be 0. So we are just trying to generalize. So what is the force? Force is again rate of change of momentum. So what is the force here?
MV minus MU by T.
Right? If the time taken is T, this is MV minus MU by T. Right? So this is the standard equation of force. Okay? You calculate the initial momentum, calculate the final momentum, calculate what is the difference. Very simple. Mass into initial speed, mass into final speed. Normally mass won't change. Normally. Right? Same car, same cricket ball. Okay? Divided by how much time it took in this process. So now mass is same here. So probably some mathematics you can take the mass out. Right? The mass doesn't change. Mass is constant m. So what is this V minus U by T?
Acceleration.
Yeah, so V minus U by T is change in speed by time. Right? V is the final speed, U is the starting speed. So V minus U is the change in speed by T, means what is the change in speed in 1 second or rate of change of speed. Now this is another contribution of Newton, that till then we did not have this concept called acceleration and deceleration, and we had some idea, but then we didn't have the mathematics to deal with it. So I won't tell invented, he worked on a new stream of mathematics to deal with this thing. Right? I think I went in reasonably in depth of that in the other course called number games.
Calculus.
Yeah, so that is what we call as calculus. But then in the same time, another gentleman called Leibniz, he also did a lot of works in the same area. So we normally credit it to Newton and Leibniz. But then I also mentioned that nowadays there are lots of debates on whether our own Madhava Sangamagrama had some early contributions to it. Okay. So that this is bit the mathematics of this is bit tricky, because this is not tricky. This is very simple, straightforward mathematics. But then when you tell speed is rate of change of distance, and then acceleration is rate of change of speed. So there are a bit more further possibilities there. Okay, so we don't want to get into the maths of it now. Okay, so now this is what we call as acceleration. This is the world famous equation from where the entire scientific revolution, whatever we call, started from. Because from this, you can calculate, if you want to build a car, what kind of an engine you need, how much force you have to apply, because you know the mass of the car. So how much force you have to apply to get so much acceleration? You know it, right? Any moving objects, any rotational thing, you want to make a giant wheel, you want to make a pump, anything. If you want to calculate what should be the speed it should pick up so that you can calculate the acceleration, how much force you have to apply, you get it from here. Very straightforward, simple, easy equation, F is equal to m into a. Right? That is why this equation is very important, very simple, straightforward. Eventually, this equation will have some corrections when we go through in a later point of time, but this is path breaking. Okay, you get this? With this slide, I will stop. This gentleman, who is this?
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt. Assume I am throwing some number of his maximum speed. Assume. It's not paka. Assume. Who is this guy?
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt is there on top bed. Second guy. He's another great athlete called Tyson Gay. Just assume, don't go with this figure. I'm just telling maximum speed of Tyson Gay is 43. You know this guy? So another fantastic athlete.
Lucerne.
Yeah, called Johan Blake. Okay. So now these people are running a 100-meter race. Who will win?
Now Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt.
I'm hearing. I'm hearing.
The given data, Usain Bolt.
The given data Usain Bolt, Ben add a precursor page.
So, but then the speed will keep on changing. It's not telling that it's constant.
Yeah. As Ananya told, you haven't told in how much time they will pick up the speed. So now I am adding that information.
Sir, but that doesn't matter if the distance is long.
I have given the distance here, my Ben. Right? In this distance, if this is the case, with this condition, if the second condition, who will win?
Johan Blake.
Johan Blake.
Johan Blake.
The bottom line is what makes you win a sprint is not your speed. A sprint you win. Yeah, you might have, let us assume you have two cars. One car can attain a speed of 200 km per hour. Probably the next car can only attain 180 km per hour. But who can overtake whom? You can't tell that now the 200 km per hour car. That is the maximum speed it can reach. But
Is that first car is in
voice is breaking. When your voice is breaking, can you type it?
But in the finish.
Yeah, tell.
Sir, you said that 100 km per hour might reach last because there is more distance, not 100 meters. It can reach 200 km, but the other car can reach that much. So at the last, if the first car is going in 200 km, it will always reach first. No.
So then 200 km, if it is its capacity to reach the speed, maximum speed, we are not telling Usain Bolt is running at 45 km. His maximum speed is that. So if a car in a speedometer, if you tell that this car's maximum speed is 200 km per hour, if this car's maximum speed is 180 km per hour, that is their maximum speed. If they are at rest, how much time they take to reach that speed? That is why in most of the cars or bikes, you will see in the specifications the time taken to cover, say, this much speed. Most of the cars and bikes nowadays you will have the time taken to get this speed. That is acceleration actually, what they speak. So if you overtake a car in a highway or something, the acceleration which you can attain is what decides whether you can overtake or not. But as Ben told, this is in a sprint. This doesn't work for long distance. For long distance, there are something else. We will talk about that in the coming class.